Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and welcome to another episode of We of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we'll discuss playing a Malstrain Gang in your campaigns of Necromunda Hive Secundus. We'll discuss the gang's composition, its fighters, its weapons and wargear, how they operate in the Underhells campaign, their strengths and weaknesses, and provide a 1,000 credit starting roster for your first campaign of Necromunda Hive Secundus. Now, because this video will be a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that way you can click and navigate to the video, that part of the video that interests you the most. So first of all, why play a Malstrain Gang? So let's go and talk about this real quick. So the Malstrain Gangs are basically the antagonists of the Hive Secundus setting. These are gangs who have basically been manipulated by, and the survivors of the city who have been manipulated by the Gene Stealers. Pretty much their idea that you want to play a Malstrain Xenos gang where you have access to the new Malstrain Gene Stealers, as well as the Coalescence, as well as the little Termites. At the same time, you want to be able to use the Brood Scum, so that way you can make gangs of mutants, madmins, and aliens, and have all kinds of fun doing this. And at the same time, you kind of like a unique challenge, because even though the Malstrain Gang is a very new gang to the campaign system, they actually have a lot of challenges and handicaps stacked up against them. So if you're really liking a challenge and you want to play more of like an environmental type gang, a gang that's basically the antagonist of an entire campaign setting, then this might be the gang for you. So with that being said, let's talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of playing a Malstrain Gang. So perhaps the greatest asset of a Malstrain Gang is its powerful brute equivalent fighters. You have access to Malstrain Gene Stealers as well as the Malstrain Coalescence. Now these are basically giant, brutal, close combat fighting machines. They got high strength, high toughness, they have a lot of skills, really good weapon skill, as well as a lot of good, really interesting special rules that can help you out dominate in close combat and also to hunt down your enemies and defeat them. At the same time, with the Malstrain Coalescence, you also have some unique weird powers that you have access to as well. There's a whole new psychic discipline based on the Malstrain Gene Stealers, so you could use that as well to your advantage to help you dominate in your games in Necromunda. At the same time, you have some really powerful close combat abilities with this gang, and you do have some expendable chaff. While Brood Scum may not be all that impressive, they actually are relatively cheap and extremely easy to replace. So if you do lose any Brood Scum, it's not a big deal because you can just recruit more, and of course just keep on destroying your enemies on the tabletop. Now, even though the Malstrain Gang does have quite a bit of strength, there's also kind of balance with some weaknesses. For example, the biggest weakness of a Malstrain Gang is that you don't have access to any heavy weapons or special weapons for that matter. Your gang does not have your typical leader fighters or champion fighters, and usually your leader and champion fighters are the ones who have access to things like plasma guns, heavy stubbers, harpoon launchers, missile launchers, melta guns, that sort of thing. So while all the other gangs that are now Malstrain Gangs have access to those things, you as a Malstrain Gang player don't actually have access to them because your Brood Scum can't actually use any of those special or heavy weapons, and so because of that, it can be a bit of a handicap on that one. So in terms of firepower, you really just are relying on just really basic pistols, basic weapons, pistols, grenades, that kind of thing. Now, even though the Gene Stealers are extremely powerful and they're really deadly in close combat, they are quite expensive. They cost anywhere between cost about 260 credits per pop. So because of that, they're extremely expensive to do so. Your Coalescence, while they do have weird powers, are also quite expensive at 155 credits too. At the same time, your Termites are actually 70 credits a piece. So because of that, it can be kind of costly. So you have to find some way to kind of balance out the killing power of your gang with some more expendable members of your gang with your Brood Scum. So you do have to find that balance when you're creating your rosters. At the same time, according to the rules as written, you can't leave Hive Secundus. You can only play a Malstrain Gang inside of Hive Secundus settings. Personally, as an arbitrator for one of my campaigns, if my friends want to play a Malstrain Gang and they want to leave the Underhive, like a Malstrain Gang that's out in the Ash Waste, for example, or back in Hive Primus, I would allow it just because I like the variety and the diversity of different types of things that my friends can do when they play their games. However, not every arbitrator is going to be as open-minded as I am about it or as flexible in the rules, so do make sure that if you want to play a Malstrain Gang outside of Hive Secundus, make sure you check with your arbitrator first. Alright, so that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the individual fighters that do make up a Malstrain gang. So one of the big ones, of course, obviously, is that you have access to the Malstrain Gene Stealer. Obviously, that's kind of like the whole part and parcel of what the reason why you want to play this, because you want to play these Gene Stealers. And these Gene Stealers are actually quite expensive, 270 credits a piece, but they're actually quite deadly. They actually have 6-inch movement, 3+ weapon skill, 4 strength and toughness, 3 wounds, 3 attacks. They have razor sharp claws, they have dodge, evade, nerves of steel, as well as rain of blows. So very, very deadly, and they're really good at close combat. So that's mainly the main killing power within a Malstrain gang. You also have your Malstrain Coalescence as well, which is slightly cheaper, costs 155 credits, but is not as good in close combat. It's only got weapon skill 4, strength 3, toughness of 4, 2 wounds, but it does have a 6 of willpower, so that allows you to actually use your weird powers actually quite well. So because you have access to those Malstrain weird powers, you'll be able to spam those on the battlefield, mess with your enemies psychologically, and then go about just supporting your troops for the most part. And the nice thing about this guy too as well is that if he casts a cool test, which he has a cool rating of 6, then Malstrain fighters within 6 inches of him also pass that cool test. So another really great thing about that. Now at the same time, you also have your Malstrain Brute Scum. These guys are like your typical Hive Scum that you normally see from the Book of the Outcast, as well as a normal Hive Scum that you normally recruit as well, with the same exact statistics. At the same time, they also have the same lack of weaponry as well. They only have really basic weapons, some pistols, some close combat weapons, some grenades, not that great armor. They do have some access to armor undersuit, which is kind of nice to give them a +1 armor save, and they also have access to photo goggles, but not respirators, and their weapon accessories aren't all that great. These guys are very basic to the extreme. And at the same time, their skill access is not that great. They only have cunning as a primary skill, with ferocity as a secondary. So that is something you do have to worry about when it comes to your Brute Scum. They're not all that great. Now you do have the Termites, which are kind of nice. They cost 70 credits a piece. Now they're not really all that impressive on the first look because their stats are not that great, but the reason why you want these things is because they can fly. You can use them to actually chaff your enemies, to put them in positions where you don't want to. It's maybe kind of hard to reach for your other fighters to get to, like seizing objectives, that sort of thing. They can also be really great for using supporting attacks against enemies that try to attack your Gene Stealers or your Coalescence, for example. So that might be something you want to keep in mind when it comes to your Malstrain Termites. So let's talk about how Malstrain gangs operate in the Underhells campaign. So without us saying, there are probably going to be Malstrain allegiances on this one. Now, technically speaking, I guess you could make them an Archeo Hunter allegiance if you wanted to. I mean, I was looking at the rules. There's nothing that says you can't do that. But narratively speaking, though, these guys are going to be your Malstrain allegiance. And personally, I feel that going to Malstrain allegiance is actually going to help you quite a bit. And the reason why you want to stick with that Malstrain allegiance is because you get additional 400 credits for your crew, for you to recruit crew members, vehicles, as well as mounted fighters. And that's going to be extremely important for you because everybody starts off at a level 1000 credits, and while Gene Stealers are expensive, and so are Coalescence as well as Termites, you could, technically speaking, get more fighters in your gang with terms of Brute Scum. All you got to do is just give them a Waster's Dirt Bike for 50 credits, and then you have additional fighters that you can add to your gang. So that's the reason why you want to stick with the Malstrain Allegiance, so that way you could definitely get those extra credits to get those other fighters, because not every campaign and not every scenario in the campaign is fought using vehicle rules. So while those characters might not be on vehicles, they could leave their Waster's Dirt Bikes back at your home base and still be able to fight the tabletop like normal. So that's the reason why I'd recommend sticking with the Malstrain Allegiance, even though technically speaking you could be an Archeo Hunter if you want to. At the same time, you also have that beautiful bonus for adding +1 or -1 on rolling on the roaming horror table. Every single one of your scenarios actually has access to the roaming horrors, and there's random threats that you have to face. Having that +1 to modify or subtract 1 to modify is extremely important, because even though you are a Malstrain infected gang, the roaming horrors will attack you all the same. It kind of shows you how disjointed the hive mind is in Hive Secundus, because even parts of the same whole fight amongst each other all the time, because they're kind of very like faction based, I guess you would say. They're not kind of connected like a unified hive mind. They're kind of little pockets of it. So because of that, that is a risk you have to worry about, and having some less risks to deal with the roaming horror table is going to really help you out. So one of the nice things about being a Malstrain gang is you get bonuses for the Madness and Desolation rules in an Underhells campaign. So we have 2 new game mechanics called Madness, and pretty much what it does is it literally affects your fighters. It's kind of like the eldritch horror stories of H.P. Lovecraft, as well as Robert Ludlum of days past, where they have to face the weird and the arcane and the mysterious creatures that are out there. So because the Madness rule, Ghost of the Dead, means that you actually suffer -1 to all nerve tests, which is actually not that bad. The reason why that's the case is because while your individual Brute Scum might not be all that great with their cool tests, you throw them next to a Gene Stealer or a Coalescence, and that could actually help you out. So it's not that bad considering what other non-Malstrain gangs of the face with the Madness special rules. Then you also have Echoes in the Abyss, which you're unaffected by, so you don't have to worry about that at all. So when you get to the second level of the campaign, you don't have to worry about that. And of course, when you get to the very bottom, Shadow of the Broodmine, you actually get a +1 bonus to all your nerf tests, which means that all of your fighters are now at cool level 7. If they're near a Coalescence, for example, that drops to cool level 5, which is really nice as well, which means your guys will never break, ever. So that's one cool thing about having this Madness trait. You do get some benefits for being a Malstrain gang. Now, when it comes to the Desolation rules, this is basically limiting the ability for you to actually buy and sell things. It kind of hurts you a little bit as being a Malstrain leader. For example, for the very far off the campaign, you suffer with a limited trade special, which means you can't gang equipment lists or add fighters after creation. So you have to be very careful about what you select for your gang starting off, because you're not going to be able to get a lot of things. At the same time, you also have +6 rarity on all items, both in terms of rarity as well as illegal rarity. So it'll be very difficult for you in order to purchase anything for your gang during that time period. At the same time, you also suffer from the cutoff of the world special rule, which is also kind of rough too. Now, while the rest of the non-Malstrain gang members have a really hard time with that one, it's not so bad for you as a Malstrain player, because yes, you can't access your gang equipment or add fighters after creation when you get to this point, but your rarity items are actually only +2 on rarity on all items, so you can still get some more equipment from the trading posts, while a lot of other gangs don't really have that access, or it's going to be very difficult for them to do so. So that's one thing that is actually quite nice about having the Malstrain allegiance, especially when it comes to Desolation special rules. So that being said, let's go and talk about your starting roster. This is a Malstrain gang starting roster for your games of Necromunda, Hive Secundus. Your gang roster is going to be rated at 1,400 credits. You get 1,000 credits to create your gang, and an additional 400 credits on top of that to purchase crew, vehicle, as well as mounted fighters for your gang, because you are of the Malstrain allegiance. So first of all, let's talk about your leader. Your leader is going to be Malstrain Genestealer. You're going to have 2 of these guys in your gang, and Malstrain Genestealer number 1 is going to cost you 270 credits. He's going to be the leader of your gang. He's got Mesh Armor for a 5-up armor save, Razor Sharp Claw as well as Venomous Bites. It's also got Bio Booster as well, so that way you can reroll injury dice. It's got the Xenos Abomination special rule, which means you can't take any post-battle action sequences, but you do come with Dodge, Evade, so because they have a 6-up Ord save and close from getting shot at, as well as close combat. Evade, so your enemies have a -1 to hit against you while you're charging across the battlefield. Nerves of Steel, so if you do get hit, you're going to basically escape pinning with that excellent cool stat that the Malstrain Genestealer has. And you also have Rain of Blows, which means that you can make fighting actions into a simple action. So in case if your enemies charge you and they somehow survive your counterattacks, you can definitely chop them to pieces with those Razor Sharp Claws. Pretty much this Genestealer's job is to basically run around and kill people and take out your enemies, and that's pretty much exactly what a Genestealer is supposed to do in the first place. The second fighter in your gang is going to be a Malstrain Coalescence, which is going to cost you 155 credits for this fighter. It's going to be a champion in your gang as well. It automatically comes with Flak Armor with a 6-up armor save, as well as Feeder Tendrils for its close combat attacks. It also flies as well, so it can nerf difficult terrain. It's also got Shadow of the Malstrain abilities, so that way it could use Psychic abilities, as well as Xenos Abomination, which means you won't be able to take post-action sequences. At the same time, you also have the Evade skills, so that way your enemies suffer a handicap to shoot at you. At the same time, you also have access to the weird power Catalyst, is what I recommend for this one. Now, Catalyst is a basic action, but it has a continuous effect, and what that says is that whenever a friendly fighter within 12 inches of this model is taken out of action, they may perform 1 free shoot action or fight action before being removed from the battlefield. You only got to use this once in order to get your power. It lasts as long as you keep on passing willpower tests. At the same time, also gives you bonus actions to your fighters in case any of your squishier fighters actually drop. So Termites, for example, or Brood Scum, if they drop, not a big problem. They can get 1 more action before they go away, either with shooting or with close combat. Your second 2 that you're also going to purchase 2 is you're also going to spend 140 credits to purchase 2 Malstrain Termites, Termite number 1 and 2. They're both exotic beasts, so they're going to be paired up with your Malstrain Coalescence. They're basically they hang around to protect the Malstrain Coalescence from being attacked. It's got Flak Armor for 6-up armor save. They also got Stingers as well as Bio Boosters in order to reroll any injury dice they might take as well. At the same time, you also have Dodge, so that can be a little bit more survival with a 6-up ward save, and you also have Flight, which means you can travel across different levels as well. I suggest keeping the Malstrain Termites with your Malstrain Coalescence, so that way they protect them from being attacked in close combat. They could also run interference, and at the same time, since all 3 can fly, they can move up freely throughout the battlefield and seize objectives as well. After that, you have a second Malstrain Gene Stealer. Gene Stealer number 2 is going to cost 270 credits. This is going to be your second champion in your gang as well. It's also got Mesh Armor, Razor Sharp Claws, Venomous Bite, Bio Booster, Xenos Abomination, Dodge, Evade, Nerves of Steel, and Rain of Blows. What you're going to do is you're going to pair up this Malstrain Gene Stealer with your leader, and you're going to have them work together in tandem, running around and flanking enemies on exposed flanks, taking out enemies in close combat, and slicing the pieces, because that's exactly what Malstrain Gene Stealers can do. Now, you might be thinking, well, Iron Major, Commander Chiefscape, with 2 Malstrain Gene Stealers, I'm taking a huge loss for my gang. I mean, I'm spending over half of my credits, 540 credits, on most of my fighters. And yes, that is true, but because we are a Malstrain Allegiance, though, we means you get bonus credits in order to recruit more fighters to kind of make up the difference for your gang. And we're going to talk about that next. Alright, so with your original 1,000 credits that you have left over, you're going to recruit 2 more Malstrain Brute Scum. You got Brute Scum number 1's going to cost 95 credits. This guy's got Chain Sword as well as a Stub Gun with Dum Dum rounds for 4-up strength attack with close range shooting. Chain Swords, absolutely fantastic. You're also giving this guy frag grenades because frag grenades are just too much fun. And the second fighter you're going to recruit the last of your 1,000 credits is your Malstrain Brute Scum number 2. He's going to cost 80 credits with a shotgun with solid and scatter ammo because shotguns are the pwn, as well as a Stub Gun for a backup weapon, as well as smoke grenades, so that we can run interference and actually stop your enemies from targeting you, and also to cover your advance as you go forward. Really important to have, especially since everyone's going to be shooting at your Malstrain Gene Stealers, so having that smoke grenade to protect them could be very, very helpful. Now, the other 3 fighters you have in this group are going to be using the 400 credits allowance you get for mounted fighters. That's going to be Malstrain Brute Scum number 3. It's going to cost you 130 credits. This fighter's got Last Gun as well as blasting charges, because blasting charges are amazing, and you're giving this fighter a Waster's Dirt Bike. That way they can also participate in battle reports where battles that require you to use vehicles. They can do that. And if you're playing a scenario that doesn't require vehicles, that's perfectly fine, because this Brute Scum is going to leave their bike back home, and they're actually going to be able to fight with you on the tabletop. So that's how we're getting more fighters on your gang, even though you purchased 2 Malstrain Gene Stealers for your gang. You also have Malstrain Brute Scum number 4, which costing 130 credits. This fighter's also got an auto gun, as well as blasting charges, as well as a Waster's Dirt Bike. And Malstrain Brute Scum number 5 is going to cost another 130 credits. This fighter's got a sawn-off shotgun with scatter ammo, with strength 3, which is great. He's also got blasting charges and also mounted on a Waster's Dirt Bike as well. These will make up the very last members of your gang. If they're not mounted and driving around on their Waster's Dirt Bike, you could definitely use them on the tabletop to be your long-range shooters, so engaging enemies at medium and long range. With Last Gun, auto gun, as well as sawn-off shotgun fire is always a great thing. Plus, they have blasting charges, which makes it even more deadly. In my opinion, as you guys level up through the campaigns, I highly recommend getting photo goggles for all of your fighters, so that way they can see in all visibility conditions, because visibility is quite limited in the Underhells campaign, so that's probably the first thing you want to buy. Second thing you probably also want to buy for these guys too are better armor for each of your Brute Scum, so that way they're a little bit more survivable, and at the same time, also get some close combat weapons for your last 3 Brute Scum, so that way they can use it. Flails would be a really good choice to use in order to give them that +1 strength modifier in close combat. So in conclusion, the Malstrain Gang is actually a very brutal and very violent gang. It requires a lot of close combat and close quarters battle, so you're mainly fighting at the close to medium range is primarily what you're using for this gang. Not many long range options for this gang. You could get heavy weapons if you wanted to, mounted on your vehicles, if you want to spend the credits for more powerful vehicles with large heavy weapons on it. However, for this first list, because you're only starting off with 1,000 credits, I thought manpower is more important than heavy weapons at this point, so that's the reason why I made the list that I did. Not to mention, this gang is going to be extremely aggressive, so staying back and shooting your opponents is not going to be a ability for you. You have to close the distance. You have to engage with your enemies. So if you're kind of gun shy around, fighting in close quarters, this might not be the gang for you. However, though, if you love doing that kind of stuff, then this gang is perfect for you. After all, you're playing eldritch horrors that come from places where the geometry doesn't make sense and the colors are indescribable and crazy insanity and madness, so you definitely want to play these guys as well. Now, because more content will be trumping down later on from Games Workshop with Hive Secundus, I will be putting out new content on a regular basis, so do keep an eye out for that, so that way you can stay informed of all the latest greatest changes made to Necromunda and Hive Secundus. So that's good for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.